Okay, Chairperson Little.
Okay, welcome everyone to the first LAFCo meeting of 2022. Will Commissioner Lololi please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Sure. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the
republic
for
for which it stands, one nation,
under God,
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. Will the clerk please call the roll?
That would be me. Commissioner Budge.
Here.
Commissioner Desmond.
Here.
Commissioner Frost.
Here.
Commissioner Jones.
Here.
Commissioner Liebig.
Here.
Chair Little.
Here.
Quorum is present.
All right, very good. Thank you. This meeting of the Local Agency Formation Commission is cablecast live on Metro Cable 14, the Local Government Affairs channel on Comcast, Consolidated Communications, and AT&T Uverse. This meeting is closed captioned and live streamed at metro14live.stackcounty.net. Today's meeting will be repeated Sunday, February 6th at 9 a.m. on Channel 14. This meeting can also be viewed at youtube.com/MetroCable14.
Mr. Chair, I will also be reading the announcement. This meeting is live streamed and temporarily closed to in-person public participation. The clerk's office is in the process of hosting hybrid public meetings that will provide board members and members of the public with the option to participate in the meeting either in person or remotely. Thank you for your patience and support. To make a verbal comment at today's meeting, please dial 916-875-2501 to provide your contact information. When the chair opens the public comment for a specific agenda item or off-agenda item, callers will be contacted by phone and transferred into the meeting to make the public comment. Written comments are always accepted. Please send your email comment to boardclerk, one word, at stackcounty.net. Again, that's boardclerk@stackcounty.net. Your comment will be routed to the board and filed in the record.
Thank you. If there's anyone who would like to address the commission on any matter not on the agenda, now would be the time. Do we have anyone?
We do not have any public commenters.
Okay, great. All right. For the consent calendar, will the clerk please call the first item?
The first item is the consent calendar, section 4, and it's composed of 5 items. The first one is renewal of the AB 361 findings for remote teleconference meetings and receive information on AB 361. The second item is to approve the appointments for chair and vice chair for calendar year 2022. The third item is approve the meeting minutes of December 1, 2021. The fourth item is receive claims dated through January 21st, 2022. And the last item is receive monthly budget report.
Do we have a motion to approve?
We move to approve as presented.
Wait a second.
Second.
All right. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Commissioner Budge. Commissioner Desmond.
Aye.
Commissioner Frost.
Aye.
Commissioner Jones.
Aye.
Commissioner Liebig.
Aye.
Commissioner Loloi.
Aye.
And Chair Little.
Aye.
Motion passes.
With that, I just want to say it's been a privilege to chair the meetings this past year, and that it's made it so much easier with the help of our chief officer, Jose Enriquez, and Diane Thorpe, and Don Lockhart as well, and everyone on the committee. So I'm pleased to hand over the virtual gavel to our 2022 chair, Gay Jones.
Thank you,
Virtual
Commissioner. Oh, yes, here we go. Our fist bump. We practice this, everybody. Chris, thank you so much for chairing last year. It's an extra challenge to juggle the Zoom, the Blue Jeans content, and make sure everyone is heard and we collectively address all the issues. And you did an excellent job. So thank you very, very much for that.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Okay. Happy Groundhog Day, everybody. Here we go. We're on item number 5. It's listed as public hearing items, but I do not see any listed. Can you confirm that, Jose?
That is correct, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Then moving on to item 6, business items. Number 6, Jose, would you like me to read this stuff since you're going to have to do a lot of talking on it anyway?
It's the same either way, Madam Chair. I have my water handy, so if you'd like me to read the title and then present it, that's fine.
Okay, we'll stick to protocol. Go ahead, sir. Thank you.
Okay. Item 6 is a report back from the staff on the conducting authority, also known as protest proceedings, for the East Gulf Reorganization Area, LAFCo Project 01-21, formerly referred to as the East Gulf Infill Annexation Area. This is a receive and file item. Staff is reporting back on the conducting authority hearing that was delegated to the executive officer. This was for the annexation that you considered in your November meeting. And after the mandatory 30-day reconsideration period, a conducting authority hearing needed to be held because the project did not have 100% landowner consent. Per the government code, the conducting authority hearing is the ability for registered voters and landowners within the subject area to protest the commission approval. Again, that was delegated to your executive officer, and the meeting was held on January 5th, 2022. The 21-day notice was mailed to landowners and registered voters per the government code, as well as a notice was posted in the newspaper. We held that hearing. As of that hearing and through the close of the hearing, we only received 2 protests. Both were for landowners of the same parcel. And no other protests were submitted and withdrawn at the meeting. As a result, that only constituted about 2% of landowners owning less than 1% of the total assessed value of land within the reorganization area. And that was not sufficient to either trigger an election or to overturn the commission decision. As a result, a certificate of completion was filed with the clerk recorder's office once the applicants complied with all of the conditions of approval, and the project is closed. The annexation or reorganization, I should say, was effective January 13th, 2022. And I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Are there any questions from my fellow commissioners? Hearing none and seeing none, it's a receive information only type item. So thank you very much. Madam Clerk, are there any public members, any public attendees who wish to comment on this?
There are no public comments.
Thank you. All right, we'll move on to business item number 7.
Madam Chair, this is the receive the mid-year budget report. Consider forming an ad hoc committee to assist the crafting of the fiscal year 2022-23 budget, and consider the approval of the hiring of a LAFCo policy analyst / senior policy analyst, depending on the qualifications of the applicant. As indicated in your staff report, basically there were several things that occurred that make this year's budget report a little bit weirder than normal. I would like to start by saying your budget is actually in very good shape. It's just that what you're going to start seeing in the budget reports from here on out is an over increase in the amount of revenues, as well as an over increase in the number of expenses. Overall, this should be a wash. In fact, it'll be a net positive in terms of revenues to expenses. But there were several things that occurred that were just out of the ordinary and that you should know about. The first thing is that basically for reasons that I don't know, the cities and a couple of special districts were not invoiced for their assessments for fiscal year 2020, 2021. As a result, those invoices went out late. Those revenues will be credited to this fiscal year, 21, 22. And in addition to the regular revenues that we would be collecting for 21, 22 in terms of agency contributions. Why this matters is because we also were hit pretty hard on the expense side, and that was because, as you know, your former executive officer was an employee of the city of Sacramento. They bill in 6-month increments, and the bills usually were received 6 months after the period in which they are billing. So, for example, the billing period would be December through June of the following year. We would not receive that invoice until November of the following year. So there was always a 6-month lag between invoices. So normally we would have expected to have received the invoice to reimburse for his salary and benefits from December of 2020 through June of 2021, and then a final invoice of June 2021 through his retirement date, which was apparently around September. That would have been the normal invoice that we would have received this fiscal year. However, there were 2 additional invoices that also hit this fiscal year. One of them was not processed. I don't know why. I don't have an explanation, but it impacted fiscal year 2019 through 2020. So that would be 6 months of his salary and benefits for that time period. And in addition, for whatever reason, the invoices from June 2020 through June 2020 through December of 2020, we did receive it, we processed it, but the county didn't pay it, and then it got lost. And so we needed to reimburse the city for that because that was an outstanding invoice. Well, both of them were outstanding invoices. So we ended up having to pay that out of this fiscal year. So while your audit, which you will be considering next month, will not reflect any of that, it will be reflected in the audit for 21-22. Again, it's for the most part a net wash because the amount of revenues that we received that were not invoiced was approximately $470,000, and the expenses for the former executive officer's salary and benefits ended up being $443,000. It just ended up kind of washing out that way. We did have a couple of vendors that as well, they had outstanding invoices that were not processed, so we had to pay that out. But I'm just giving you a heads up because your future budget reports, as you saw in item number 5, are going to start looking really out of the ordinary in the next couple of months. I'm hoping that the staff report that's associated with item number 5 will also help you read the budget reports from here on out. If not, please give me a call. I'll be happy to help. So having said all that, trying to keep everything straight and sharpening my proverbial pencil and using a lot of Excel spreadsheets, I tried calculating what would be the impact if the commissioner were to hire an additional staff. And when you first hired me, I indicated that I was basically going to wait a year before I could give you my recommendation about the staffing levels for Sacramento LAFCo and whether those were adequate. It's been only 7 months, but it has really come to my attention that we probably need to hire sooner versus later. And as a result, I wanted to know what kind of impact we would have on the budget. I think, for the most part, controlling for costs, it'll probably end up being that the agency contributions will have to go up. Right now, they've been static since 2016. So I project them to basically go up no more than 5% year over year for the next 3 years, and then about 5% year over year after that. So it'll be a steady steady rise, and obviously we would, it's difficult to project once you get past a certain time period. But I do believe that at least for the next 3 years, if we were to bring somebody in, the agency contribution should not go up at a tremendous rate. I think it'll be all manageable and controllable. But we do need the help, especially in light of potential projects that are on the horizon, as well as the item that we're going to be talking about in item number 8. And given those responsibilities, I'm going to need the help. I can't administer the office and be able to do the administrative or the analytical aspect of the job as it has been in the past. Historically, Sacramento LAFCo has 3.0 staffing or 3.5 staffing. I think it's overdue to get back to that staffing level. In terms of the level that we're going to be looking at, I was looking at what's called an associate administrative analyst levels, either 1 or 2. I think we can accommodate. I would think we can accommodate someone at that level. I indicated in the staff report, Madam Chair, that I have actually been receiving unsolicited phone calls about whether or not Sacramento LAFCo is going to be hiring soon, and these are qualified individuals. So I don't want to say from where, but they are very familiar with the LAFCo process. I don't want to alert my colleagues that I may poach someone from their staff if you approve this item. But these will be people that actually would be able to hit the ground running if it works out, and I think it's something that is doable. And for what it's, I have been looking at the county and discussing what the process would be if you were to approve this item of go ahead and hiring an analyst, because we would have to be hiring through the County of Sacramento and then having that person assigned to Sacramento LAFCo, which obviously that triggers certain procedural aspects in their process as well. So that is my staff report in summary. I'd be happy to answer any questions you have.
Are there any of my fellow commissioners that have questions or comments for Jose?
Yeah, I had a comment. I support this wholeheartedly. I think this is well overdue. Just, even prior to my work on the commission, I could see where, additional help was needed in the office to be able to move things along and really do the technical work needing to be done at LAFCo. So I'm in full support of this. I think, budget-wise, even with a anomaly type budget that we're going to have this year, you can see, where there's space for this, and the work definitely warrants that. So I'm in full support and think this is a very well laid out, thoughtful approach to addressing staffing needs within the commission.
Gay, I would agree with Lindsay. Many of us remember that until a previous director retired, LAFCo had generally always had 3 people, so that there were 2 people to actually analyze whatever was coming forward and do the negotiations. And I can imagine that this office has been quite strained over the last few years, which may have led to some of these some of the kinds of inadequacies that Jose was describing.
Thank you, Linda. Appreciate that. Other comments from fellow commissioners?
Yeah, I'd have to agree as well, because it seems like obviously we're going to be having more activity coming forward that's going to require a lot more time by staff, and right now staff is essentially 1 person. And it's just not feasible. And I think another item coming up is going to be the MSRs, and I think those require a lot of time. And again, if 1 person's doing all of the labor, it's very challenging. So it seems a prudent thing to do to bring somebody on to get our all of our work done.
Is this on for an action item? Should we make a motion now?
We have recommendations, and the staff has listed the 3 recommendations is to receive the status report and approving recruitment and hiring of LAFCo analyst, and then direct staff to incorporate that hiring within the budget.
I would make that motion.
And I would second it.
Right, thank you very much. We have a motion and a second on the floor. Are there any other comments from fellow commissioners? I would like to point out, I'm in total support of all of this. I would like to point out 2 things in addition to the very good and appropriate comments that have already been made. One is that comparatively with LAFCos throughout the state, they cannot believe that we are so understaffed here in Sacramento County. So as a comparison, a comparative analysis, if you will, we have been understaffed. And even with 2 and a clerk, it was still considered rather short-staffed when in comparison amongst the other 57 LAFCos. And my second comment is, I think it's very important. Part of what we tried in a way was to use these monies and work with consultants on an as-needed basis type of situation. And the problem with that is that it's always day one. Sorry about the groundhog thing, but that's always Groundhog Day because we're starting from day one with a consultant. We have to back them up and fill them in. Whereas if we have our constant staffing, there's no need to reinvent the wheel each time. Our team, and it is a team, they're ready to go and they're well versed in the foundation of these issues that are going to come up. So I very much appreciate Jose's work in developing this proposal. And Madam Clerk, do we have any public comments?
We do not have anyone signed up to speak.
Okay, thank you, Madam Clerk. All right, we have a motion and a second on the floor. Would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Budge,
Yes.
Commissioner Desmond,
Aye.
Commissioner Frost,
Aye.
Commissioner Liebig,
Aye.
Commissioner Little,
Aye.
Commissioner Loloe,
Aye.
Chair Jones.
Aye.
Motion passes.
All right, thank you very much. I feel very, very positive about that. Very, very positive about that vote. Moving on. All righty, item number 8 under business items. I'm sorry. Director Henriquez, please carry on.
It's okay. Item number 8 is consider revisiting the MSR process for Sacramento LAFCo. The recommendation here, Madam Chair and Commissioners, is right now it is none. This is strictly for discussion purposes and to basically plant the seed in terms of how you want to handle this. This item will return in a couple months for a full discussion and for an adoption of an MSR project plan. But basically, to try to keep this short and for any audience member who's listening, the Commission is tasked with adopting spheres of influence for every agency. In addition, the government code states that before you adopt a sphere of influence, you amend it or you create a new one, you have to conduct what's called a municipal service review. A municipal service review is basically a snapshot in time. It's a report that evaluates the capability and the capacity of an agency as it currently provides services. And then you are supposed to use that data to extrapolate how much they grow over time. So the MSR is what's going on now, and it provides the data for you to establish a sphere of influence across a certain time horizon. Now, what the government code actually says is that basically you are to conduct and update the SOIs every 5 years or as necessary. So if it's not necessary to amend the sphere, you don't have to do a municipal service review. And the as necessary approach has worked really well for agencies that are active, and that would be cities and special districts that have frequent annexations or detachments, or are looking to expand across a certain time horizon. The potential issue that might arise is that for agencies that are dormant, they have not been studied in any way, even if it doesn't, even if you're not looking to alter the sphere of influence for any agency. The fact that an MSR has been out there that was created in 2008 or maybe a few years after that, and then it has not been updated, can pose a potential problem if certain parties decide that they want to make it a problem. And I'm going to use the example in Solano LAFCo. Solano LAFCo had not updated the spheres, or has not created an MSR or any of its cities over 10 years. The grand jury basically slapped Solano LAFCo on the wrist, saying you need to update your MSRs. And I don't think there's anybody out there that is looking to ding Sacramento LAFCo, because I do think that the approach is sound and at least based on the law. But it may be something to consider that we should invest the resources, either staff time, monetary or both, or monetary in terms of hiring consultants, or both, in order to kind of at least periodically review certain agencies that have not had their municipal service reviews refreshed in quite a while. So, for example, at the Del Paso Manor Water District, the MSR was last completed in 2011. The grand jury made a note of it, that it had been a while, and it had recommended that LAFCo create an MSR for it. But it did not. It didn't take the next step in saying that the commission wasn't doing its job, because I don't think that they were looking at it from that standpoint. But I do think that there's a possibility here that we need to revisit how we do MSRs. Maybe get some of them refreshed, create some type of project plan so that you're not tackling the whole project all at once, but instead you're taking small, manageable pieces year over year, and ensure that at least for some districts that provide critical services are studied in a periodic, or at least refreshed in a manner that refreshes their municipal service review. There are multiple ways in which you can do this. You can adopt that approach for all agencies. However, as you noted in the staff report, there's a lot of districts and agencies here in Sacramento County. We're talking about 5 dependent special districts, 7 cities, and I forgot how many, 86 special districts in the county.
I think we have 120 altogether, Jose.
Yeah, so it's a lot, and trying to take it all at once would be a significant amount of resources. Instead, what I recommend for you to consider is that we take it one at a time. So let's say maybe we only review a certain type of district. So let's start with water districts. We are only reviewing the water districts. We adopted a project plan to review those water districts so that their MSRs are fresher. And then maybe at the end of that project plan, you look at the park and recreation districts and move it along. Another way that it can be done is maybe you look for a geographic region, which we target a region of the county, and all of those special districts that serve that area get reviewed. And another approach that other LAFCos have employed is that basically that they only review certain services. So while the government code is really kind of silent about what is a municipal service, you can get a little bit of an idea based upon how the government code approaches what are called disadvantaged communities. And for those disadvantaged communities, and this is found in the code for the sphere of influence, in fact, they are talking about specific services: fire, law enforcement, water, wastewater. So, so you could say, you know what, we'll prioritize those services first, and then we'll handle the other projects second. So there are multiple ways in which this can be approached, so that it's not just, you know, everything at once. But I wanted to at least bring this item for you now so that you can think about it and you can think about the approach that you want to take, so that in 2 months we can revisit and have a dialogue about what the commission would prefer to see in terms of an MSR project plan. I do believe that it'll likely be an effort of hiring consultants and staff-led in order to get it accomplished. So there will be some kind of investment from a budgetary standpoint, both for personnel and for consultants. I think that's probably going to be the best way in which we will be able to accomplish that. So again, there's no action for you to take. I just wanted to bring this item so that you can consider it, maybe solicit public input, talk amongst your staff if you have some, about what the best approach could be, and then be ready to discuss it in a couple months. And so that concludes my staff report. Please let me know if there are any questions.
Yes, Sue. Commissioner Frost.
Thank you, Chair. I was wondering if, because I know there's a lot of time and expense associated with these, and I was wondering if there would be a way to look at, I know at different times in history, you know, looking back, we have taken a closer look at some of the, you know, organizations or districts that were maybe struggling, and, you know, to go in and review. Is there a way for us to maybe determine if there are, you know, I like your idea about doing, you know, like water district or certain things and organizing it in a way so we're not tackling it all at once, but is there a way for us to then maybe do the MSRs on, or, you know, those that are struggling or who might, you know, benefit by that deep dive sooner? I just wondered if you could comment on that.
That is actually another valid approach. Basically, concentrate on the districts that would need a little bit of help, regardless of the category and the type of service that they provide or geographic region. I could review the previous MSRs to kind of see what they said, but probably identifying those is going to have to be either on a self-identification basis or based upon your knowledge in other areas. So, for example, you're a supervisor, and then maybe perhaps in your supervisorial district, you know that that there are about 2 or 3 districts that are struggling, and so you would rather that LAFCo, you know, take a look at those, and maybe perhaps, you know, Commissioner Liebig, based on the district that she represents, kind of has her ear on the ground in terms of what other districts are in the general area, the southeast corner of the county, how they're doing, and so maybe she has a list of districts, and so we can approach it that way. So either self-identification or of districts that you know. That might be another way in which you can tackle that project.
And then I just wanted to ask you, are these required if someone's going to do a sphere of influence or an annexation? And if so, is there a list of people that are in line to do these, you know, that we could help by prioritizing them to, you know, because there is, my understanding is there's a cost associated with this. This is not a small thing. It's a big thing. It's a lot of work. And so what do you think of that?
You're absolutely correct, Commissioner Frost. Right now, the districts that are active and actually have projects, that effort is actually funded by the applicant, either be the agency itself or the real party of interest is what is called in the LAFCo nomenclature. Basically, there's a proponent of some type of development, You need an SOI, so they go to a city or special district and say, we need to have the SOI amendment. The agency applies to LAFCo, we bill the agency, and then the agency turns around and bills or gets reimbursement from that other party. So for those kind of things, they seem to be taken care of in that there's someone out there who is supportive of getting the MSR done, getting the SOI reviewed by the commission, and so typically, LAFCo would hire the consultant to do that review on your behalf. So that is not something that comes out of LAFCo's budget necessarily. You put up the money up front, but then we get reimbursed. So budget-wise, it's neutral. So to your question, I don't think that there's a need to prioritize those simply because those agencies will be reviewed regardless of what you do with this MSR project plan that we'll be discussing in a few months. They will always have a fresh MSR and a fresh SOI that will be coming to you.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you, Jose.
So, Gay, I have a comment.
Yes, ma'am.
So, that's a very good point. There is a difference between initiated MSR review initiated by LAFCo as opposed to somebody who initiates an MSR review because they have a project that they plan to bring through LAFCo. But in general, Jose, if the self-identification process does not work, then it would seem more logical to use the category theory as opposed to geography, because many of the special districts in this county, and Gay is representing one of the biggest, are common to several political jurisdictions, not just one geographic region. So I can think of, the other one is, of course, is regional sand. And so it really makes more sense to do it in terms of categories, park districts, water districts, that kind of thing. But we appreciate you taking the initiative. That's a really good idea.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Just wanted to weigh in here as well. Herald Fire was the last district to be recognized by the grand jury for needing a LAFCo MSR because it had been out of date. And it was with a long host of other problems similar to, some of the challenges that are facing Del Paso right now. And so, coming into that process post grand jury and having to be the one to clean everything up while I was on the board, we undertook that MSR process and did it completely internal. I wrote our entire MSR myself. So, we took that on. So it is a lot of work, but if that would have been done prior, it was pushed because of all the turmoil going on. If that would have been flagged and done prior, I think it could have caught a lot of the issues going on at Herald before they got, as worse that they are. So I'm a big proponent of more regular MSR reviews, even if we institute some sort of MSR light, or some sort of auditory process or something like that is more of an internal checks and balances. I think it does one of two things. I think one, it gives this commission a chance to look at those districts, special districts in particular, of really the health and vitality and activity level of those. But two, you have staff changes and board member changes that are happening in those districts all the time. So this sometimes is a brand new process that, like, when I took over the MSR process, no staff, no board member had undergone that at all. So it was completely brand new. We were starting from scratch. We didn't even have a draft to go from until we got that from Dawn, because there's nothing even kept on file, with file issues. So more regular, information would have really helped us, kind of move that along. And I think we could potentially find some other issues in districts before they become issues like us or Del Paso, or that type of thing. I know there's a cost and resources involved, but I think that it could potentially alleviate all of this type of, follow up with grand juries and investigations and this like that, if we can catch some of that early. So maybe it's not a full blown MSR if we don't need that for every district, especially those that are pretty steady and not looking to change. But maybe, we take pictures of that in our snapshots and we do an MSR light, review of just the major components or something like that. So just wanted to throw that idea out there. But even on our own LAFCo website, we've done our MSR within the last 5 years, and none of our information is current on the LAFCo website. So we're still not even, the information that's still on there includes a chief that's deceased. So, we have a lot of information that's out of date. So when people go to look up, who our districts are, we're just so kind of behind the ball on that. And so any further, I think establishing the need for additional staff, in the office. But I think this is a service that, if we're going to be looking at increasing dues and fees to our districts, providing them with this service and additional, work is great. Plus, it also keeps the connection between LAFCo and the districts, because those of us like Gay and I that have to go around and garner that support to be, elected to these positions, we spend most of our time explaining what LAFCo is every 2 years and what we're doing. So, I think it could just help all the way around with all of the issues.
Yeah. Yeah.
Lindsay, I wholeheartedly concur with everything you said, with a couple exclamation points behind it. Thank you. Are there any other commissioners' comments? Madam Clerk, do we have any comments from the public?
We do not have any requests to speak.
All right, thank you very much. It's a receive and file, and Jose, thank you so much for bringing this to our attention. My comment is that this is totally critical, and it's always a good thing when LAFCo is ahead of these issues and not trying to play catch up. That's the bottom line. So thank you very much for bringing that forward. Moving on to business item number 9, consider response to the grand jury request for an MSR timeline.
Madam Chair, Commissioners, as you know, the grand jury investigated or reviewed, I should say, the El Paso Manor Water District. In that review, they requested that LAFCo prepare a municipal service review on that district and to have it completed by March 2022. The Commission reviewed the grand jury report and wrote a response as requested. But if you recall, the Commission requested that an adjustment of the timeline of the MSR. A lot of the things that the district is expected to report back or prepare in response to the grand jury report, LAFCo will need. LAFCo will need that for its MSR. So, per the grand jury, the district is supposed to produce those documents by June of 2022. So, your response to the grand jury requested that the MSR actually be started in June of 2022 to be basically have a draft finalized around November of 2022. LAFCo received a response from the grand jury to that request, agreeing to the adjusted timeline, but they also requested that you provide a detailed timeline or proposed timeline for the completion of the MSR. And their concern really is that basically they don't want this to be, kicked down the road or kick the can down the road or, not be prioritized. So, using my best knowledge of MSRs and how long it takes them to complete on a somewhat realistic basis, I prepared a timeline, and it's part of your attachment C to the staff report to respond back to the grand jury, where basically the report will be completed in March 2023, but a draft will be out for the public review in November of 2022, and that's pretty realistic to give the consultants approximately 3 to 4 months to analyze the data and a couple months to actually be able to draft a report, which will also be submitted to the district for their review as an administrative draft before it's made public. So your attachment C contains the best timeline that I can think of, absent anything else, because we don't have a consultant selected. We don't know what we'll be dealing with. We don't know how many documents we're going to have. But I think it's a pretty realistic one. I did provide it to the vice foreperson of the grand jury and solicited her input and to see if she was if she thought it was responsive to the grand jury's request, and she replied back that it was. I forwarded that email to you, and for members of the public who would like to see it, be more than happy to provide it to you as well. Just request it at commissionclerk@saccounty.net. And so the request from staff is that you approve attachment C and that you authorize the chair to sign it so that it can be provided to the grand jury in response. I will be happy to answer any questions you may have on this. Should you approve attachment C, tomorrow I'll probably start working on the RFP to circulate, because we are kind of on a crunch timeline. The hope is that we can bring back some qualified responses for your consideration in May, so they can hit the ground running in June. And there is money in the budget for us to be able to do that. I've specifically carved out what I think is a reasonable amount that a consultant may charge. Hopefully the bids come in under that. But there should be funds in the budget to do that. Just from an accounting standpoint, I will disclose that basically the monies will be allocated this fiscal year, but most likely the bulk of it will be spent the next fiscal year. So it would be necessary for me to account for that into the budget so that it makes our books balanced. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Any questions or comments from commissioners?
Move to approve.
Second.
Who wants to take the second?
It's okay.
Whoever.
Was it Lindsay? Okay.
Sure.
Moved by Commissioner Little, second by Commissioner Liebig. We have a motion and a second on the floor. Madam Clerk, are there any public comments on this item?
We have no requests.
Thank you, Ms. Munoz. All right. Would you please call the roll?
Will do. Commissioner Budge.
Yes.
Commissioner Frost.
Yes.
And I'm embarrassed to say that I never asked you how to pronounce your last name in the 7 months that I've been here. Is it Liebig or Liebig?
It's Liebig.
Okay. Commissioner Liebig.
Yeah, aye.
Commissioner Little.
Aye.
Commissioner Luloe.
Aye.
And Chair Jones.
Aye.
Motion passes.
All right. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Jose. We're moving on to business item number 10. Discuss and recommend an update to the commission, a rotation schedule to the city selection committee. Go ahead, Jose. Thank you.
Madam Chair and members, this item basically is for you to consider. You will not actually be formally adopting this. This will be your recommendation to the city selection committee for them to approve. That's part of their process. But basically, as you know, the Sacramento LAFCo has membership based on city, special districts, and county. County commissioners are appointed as part of the committee appointment process. The special district representatives are actually elected by the other boards of the special district. But the city is a bit unique in that one city is reserved, or one city seat is reserved for the city of Sacramento, and the other city seat is actually rotated amongst the six other cities. You also have a public member who represents the public at large, and that's and that person is selected based upon the six other members, a vote of the six other members. But on the city aspect of it, as I indicated, the six cities rotate amongst themselves who sits on LAFCo as both the alternate to seat number 2 as well as the regular to seat number 2. Right now, that seat number, the city seat number 2, is occupied by Commissioner Budge, and Ileton actually has the alternate position at the moment, but they have not appointed someone to be on LAFCo. So Commissioner Budge does not have an alternate at the moment. But regardless, the current rotation ends at the end of this year. And so after that, I don't know if chaos and mayhem occurs, but in order to prevent that, the staff has drafted the rotation schedule that you see on your staff report as part of continuing this through actually 2045, and sorry, through 2046. And it basically just maintains the current rotation in the order in which the cities have adopted prior to this year. So it would continue from starting 2023 next year through 2025. But again, would only be a recommendation on your part. You would not be adopting the schedule. You're basically just recommending that the city selection committee, which would be the mayors of the 6 cities, to approve of this rotation. Once they approve it, then it becomes official, and then staff will. Somebody's calling me at this hour, and then at that point, it'll be up to staff can then utilize the schedule to start the process of getting the commissioners appointed as they are. So that concludes my staff report. Please let me know if you have any questions.
Mm-hmm.
I move the recommendation.
Go ahead.
I was going to say I'll move the recommendation to the committee.
Second.
Select.
Okay. Was that a second, Linda?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. We have a motion and a second on the floor. Are there any further comments from commissioners? Madam Clerk, do we have any public comments?
We do not have anyone signed to speak.
All right, thank you. Please call the roll. Oh, there's not a roll. It's a recommend. Well, we have a motion. Okay, go ahead. Call the roll, please.
Sure. Commissioner Budge.
Yes.
Commissioner Frost.
Aye.
Commissioner Liebig.
Aye.
Commissioner Little.
Aye.
Commissioner Loloe.
Aye.
Chair Jones.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Jose, I just have one question.
Sure.
Will you be notifying us of the date of the city selection committee meeting, or will that come from someplace else directly to the mayors?
The process is that the clerk to the Board of Supervisors notifies the mayors to convene the city selection committee, and then it would be the clerk who would be basically coordinating their schedules and setting up that meeting. I would imagine, based on the public health order, it would be virtual.
Right.
These things tend to be pretty pretty short and sweet. So I would imagine that tomorrow I'll contact the clerk to the board and get the process moving. When that will be scheduled, obviously that will be subject to the mayors.
I don't remember it being short and sweet, but the last time I attended one of them, which was probably 2007, Heather was actually the mayor of Sacramento, which shows you how long ago it was. So
yeah,
I was just going to try. I have given Donald a heads up that this is going to happen, but so whenever they meet, they'll meet.
Okay.
Best of luck with that, Commissioner Budge.
Thank you, Jay.
All right. Moving on our agenda, we have questions and announcements. We will ask the executive officer and then the commission council if they have any comments for us and the public.
Deanne, did you want to go first?
I just wanted to say Happy New Year. I have no specific comments, but thank you. And I'm always available for questions or follow-up from the commission.
I have a couple of things. None of them are critical. I just wanted to give you a heads up on what's already on the plate for March. Basically, we have a report from the County Department of Finance on the annual pooled investment fund, which will be included in your packet as part of consent, actually. But the two big items really will be a consideration of the budget for fiscal year 22-23. And in addition, I'm coordinating with your auditors to provide a presentation to you for the audit for fiscal year 2020-2021. And I'm sure they'll cover some of the items that I've discussed here, but that will also be part of your packet for next year. In addition, there are a few things that are kind of moving along. I've been notified that the proposed merger that Carmichael Water District is exploring with Sac Suburban is still moving along. I believe that they've gone and they've hired a consultant to study the viability of that proposal. And then I'm also in conversations with the city of Sacramento relating to the drafting up the notice of preparation of an EIR for the south of airport or proposed south of airport annexation. We are trying to target a public meeting on the notice of preparation. That'll be sometime in the second half of February, so that the public and any interested parties can weigh in on the subject matters that are to be covered on the EIR. So those things are moving along in addition to a few other potential projects that at the moment they're not far enough for me to give you an update on. And that concludes my report.
All right, thank you very much. Are there any comments and or updates from my fellow commissioners? Okay, hearing none and seeing none. One, I'd like to say thank you all for your professionalism and generous humor for letting me chair, and we will, all of us pulling together, we'll have a good 2022.
For sure.
I'd also like to acknowledge the work that Jose put into this particular agenda with the budget review, that analysis. It is, I for one greatly appreciate that attention to detail and encompassing the whole ball of wax, so to speak, so that we have a good footing to help understand our parameters and what we need to do as LAFCo. And then as a final little reminder, again, with COVID, who knows what's going to happen, but a reminder that at this point, the Metro Chamber of Commerce has scheduled cap to cap that would be during our May meeting, May 4th. That's a travel day. So perhaps when we're considering agendas, timelines, and discussions, we need to keep that in mind for future scheduling. Again, depending what happens, it's a go so far, but I don't want to predict anything more than 24 hours in advance with COVID, I swear. All right.
Yeah.
Well, thank you all very much. Is there anything for the good of the order? If not, thank you for your time this evening and have a great rest of the night. Take care.
Thanks, Gay. Good night.
Thank you.
Good night.